Hello everyone! Pino and Apple here with another Big Finish audio story. The first Torchwood audio I've heard in years, the second I've ever heard, and a tie into a set we took a look at previously, Zygon Century. This is Torchwood's monthly range, Story 93, Rictus. This is an interesting one from the story itself to the characters involved, and just how it relates to the other story arcs. And it is a little daunting for me to step into the range at story 93, but this is fairly standalone, connecting to Torchwood's origins and other audios, as it relates to Queen Victoria's youngest daughter after her untimely death. Queen Victoria having a few focus episodes in this line, and of course having started Torchwood in Tooth and Claw. So it's an interesting perspective to have. Why don't we take a look at the characters first, starting with her youngest and main character, Princess Beatrice, played by Fenella Woolger. Already known in Doctor Who from playing Agatha Christie and having a few audio appearances as other characters. Beatrice works pretty well as the main character, having just inherited Torchwood from her mother and feeling distanced. The current Torchwood head blocking her at every turn, so she takes terms into her own hands in order to fill her mother's legacy. She's easy to understand and empathise with, even if a little much for the listener in one or two instances. And this way of seeming so upfront really helps sell the bittersweet ending, which of course fits the Zygon Century stories in the worst way, but is at least a fair bit more positive than them. Next, we have the current acting head of Torchwood, Castringham, played by Hugh Fraser, who has apparently already appeared in a Queen Vic audio, The Empire Man. Castringham is a hard-ass who blocks Beatrice or B at every turn, till her obliviousness forces him into a dangerous corner. So he's forced to divulge his secrets. And while not evil, he's done morally questionable things. Definitely, but not a typical villain. He does get his comeuppance at the end, making for a really good ending. Performed well and taken down by his own reluctance to transition B into Torchwood. Next are the Zygons, where we really get into spoilers. First is Lady Saxifrage, played by Rachel Atkins, who we last heard as Argento in Dark Gallifrey's Morbius. The character isn't a focus, but she's played really well, and with one or two layers to be revealed, overall, a pretty good side character. And finally we have Anson, played by Sid Segar. A character with a really interesting story. A Zygon child experimented on, going a little crazy, and honestly, his acting both as the kind facade and the hurt abuse victim are pulled off brilliantly as he escapes captivity and his instability spreads to the Zygons populating both high and low society, going mad with Joker grins on their faces, and sometimes committing acts of violence. His story is really effective, and the gruesome body horror imagery that spawns from it is really creative, and while not utilised as well as possible, really helps give the story variety. So, the story itself plot-wise is pretty interesting, but also a bit full. B is desperately trying to get Castringham's approval so that she can run Torchwood effectively, and wanders into a mystery. A murder witness who died before B met him when he showed her to the murder scene. And she finds a vault, her snooping deeper and deeper into the mystery, revealing to a group of Zygons in London's higher echelons and common folk to realise Torchwood no longer has the leverage to keep them in line. This leverage was a Zygon youngling that Castringham had captured and experimented on. The child going insane under the experimentation, and physically unstable, creating these gruesome half-baby creatures which are used and described effectively. Castringham explains all of this to B as they bury corpses together. Lovely. He tells her that its mind and body became unstable and the bits of form that split off became those grinning half-babies, trapped for 20 years. And as she finds out that the Zygon has the uncanny ability to make all Zygons around it carry the same Rictus grin it does, he said it! She realises it's been masquerading as the agent who's been helping her get involved, Anson. She reveals as such to the de facto Zygon head, Saxifrage, and Castringham to revolve things peacefully. Anson giving a heartbreaking speech about what he endured in captivity. It's good stuff.
It's good stuff!
Saxifrage wants to cure Anson, but B has a more royal plan, using the smiling Zygon to reveal and kill all the lower class Zygons, while keeping the upper class and letting them live their lives, as long as they are useful. And as a gift, acting as if she thinks her mother would, She leaves, casting him to the Zygons to decide his fate, a very violent one. The story, of course, must keep the trend of Zygon Sentry going by having needless downer endings, but it doesn't start that way. It has a great ambiguous ending by heavily hinting that the king himself may have been replaced, be uncaring as she runs Torchwood now. But then we get another little scene setting up Zygon Sentry, the smiling Zygon deciding to join the Black Cadre because, you know, insanity. Now, while I think that this explains why Torchwood is off the board in infiltration, seemingly believing that they have a hold on the Zygon movement, it feels a little tacked on and unnecessary. And if they wanted to tie in the Black Cadre more than just mentioning him once, they probably could have done it earlier in the story. And it of course brings up questions as to why the Rictus Zygon and the smiling phenomenon doesn't make any appearance in Zygon Sentry itself. This is a good story even with a bit too much going on and a slightly disappointing ending. I can't give Rictus by James Goss any more than a 7 out of 10. I liked it, but it wasn't exemplary. And I'm not sure if this will be a well-liked story, as I don't think I've had anyone really take a look at it. But even with the problems, I was invested the entire time in characters and imagery. And I'm excited to eventually hear more ye olde worldy Torchwood audios. Thank you everybody for watching my review of Torchwood Rictus. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, and consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring the notification bell so that you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.